Hey, Mary Bartos, I am super excited today to talk about what's going to happen and what can we expect in 2022 with my friend David Childers from Keeping Current Matters. Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning, Mary. I'm excited to be back and talk about the real estate market and everything going on. So thanks for having me back.
Well, it was a crazy year in 19, 20, and 21. And I would say that 2022 is not going to disappoint.
Right. I believe that's
Tell us your
absolutely
thoughts.
right. hmm So let's talk about that. And I know, Mary, folks are going to have the chance to ask questions too, right? So I would ask,
Absolutely.
put the questions that you have about the real estate market in the chat there or in comments, and get those to us, and we'll answer those real time. But
Awesome.
maybe, Mary, let's start off talking about just what's going to happen this year, according to experts. Is that a good place to start?
Absolutely.
All
Let's
right.
let's hear what they're saying.
Yeah, I think, if we think about what to expect, there are two things I would draw attention to. Expect prices to continue to go up, and expect interest rates to go up. And
Yeah,
if we think about where we're at right now in housing, I want to give you just a little bit of perspective. So uh, think about financing a home, going out and buying a home and getting a mortgage for it. We started the year at about 3.1% is the national average. Today, we're here on the 4th of February, a little over a month into the year. We're at 3.5% on the average 30-year fixed, and maybe in some cases higher than that. And so we've seen a jump in interest rates. Experts are forecasting that we'll be around 4 by the end of the year. So continuing to go up, but certainly not at the pace that we went up in January. Now, what's happening in and around that? Let's take what came out this morning, the jobs report, which by all of the forecaster standards, first of all, they missed on the forecast this morning. So there was going to be a very different jobs report than what we saw, and we saw an overall positive jobs report. So
that's
what does
crazy.
that mean for mortgage rates? Right. The economy is improving. People are getting back to work. We know that. We're going to get through this Omicron COVID variant. That's going to happen, and the economy is improving. And so expect those interest rates to go up. Now here I did a little bit of back of the napkin math this morning. If you were to finance $500,000 at the start of the year at 3.1% compared to where we are today at 3.5%, that's about $100 jump in payment. You go to
A
where
hundred.
experts are forecasting, yeah, $100 a month. Where experts are forecasting towards the end of the year, you go up to 4%. It's about $250 of a payment per month jump. So expect those rates to go up. If you put this into perspective, where we are in the interest rate, sort of world is where we started COVID, right back about where we were at the beginning of 2020. The kind of rates dipped down and they're coming back up. And for the last year, 10 years, we've been at between about 3.5% and 5% in mortgage rates, and that's where I think we're heading back to, Mary.
I'm taking a few notes while you're
Mhm.
speaking, and at that, and you double it. Say you get $1 million, and you're going to double it. That's $500 extra, 2 million,
Real money.
thousand. And money was so cheap that some of our cash buyers were moving towards financing.
hmm
What do you think of that? What do you see as an expectation in 2022? And by the way, please, if you're watching us, go ahead and put your comments in the chat, and we'll make sure we get those answered. But what do you see? Is there going to be a trend from cash, or from getting a mortgage back to cash?
It's a great question. I want to tell you something I found this morning from John Burns Consulting. This is shocking to me, Mary. The state of Florida in December, 38% of the transactions were cash in December, just a little over a month ago. Nationally, it was about 19%. So
Interesting.
you're certainly seeing more cash buyers. The first thing I would say to anybody listening, don't become disillusioned if you think I'm not a cash buyer. That does not mean you're out of the picture. It's just an interesting piece of information. I think there are a couple things at play right now. The reason you're seeing that is because we're seeing a lot of inflation in the world. I mean, you can't go to the gas station or the supermarket or anywhere and not sort of see rising prices right now. What do we know? In inflationary times, you want to be invested in hard assets, and real estate is one of the best hard assets. Actually, Keeping Current Matters, Mary, we went back and looked at each decade and housing and its performance against inflation. And I can tell you this, and I can send you the report. You can get it from Mary and her team. You want to be invested in housing in inflationary times. It's one of the best hedges, if not the best hedge, towards inflation. And so I think that's why you saw a lot of all cash buyers rushing in to the market. Now, if you talk to economists, they're kind of split. Some say it's going to hang around and some say it's not. And that's nobody has the crystal ball there. But I think going forward, as the Fed works to lower inflation, you'll see less cash buyers.
That's interesting because I'll just give you our perspective. A few years ago, we were about 60% cash.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're at 51% cash of what 2021, the whole year was. Mm-hmm. So I guess because we have such a heavy secondary market, I don't know if you've seen this. One of our lenders actually will help people put in cash offers by buying their home. And, I'm negotiating one in this price point you were talking about today. And it's crazy when you think about somebody coming in so much over with cash versus someone that's going to get financing and what that looks like.
Yeah. And that's why I was saying, don't feel like you missed the boat if you're not sitting in a position to be an all cash buyer. There are resources to be able to take advantage of. And Mary, you can connect people to those to be competitive in a scenario like that. So yeah, there absolutely are. And I think, having somebody on your side that has access to those types of resources and those types of solutions absolutely is required in this market.
Make sure you ask your questions below. If you're watching this now, if you're watching it later, you can ask your question and we'll make sure we get them answered in the future. But, you talked a little bit, for the first part of this about interest rates. Mm-hmm. Talk about what you see 2022 is going to happen with prices.
Yeah, that's the other big piece there is the price of homes. Let me back up and tell you where we've been nationally in real estate. We came into the pandemic in 2020. Certainly, nobody could have foreseen that coming, and that has this impact on real estate, and people sort of, say, hey, with low interest rates and a need, different for, home, maybe to work, to, school, all the things we know that happened. A lot of people rushed in, and we saw in 2020 about 10% appreciation in homes across the country. And now we went into 2021 last year and saw, this appreciation number continue to climb, peaking year over year, sometime around the middle of the year into the fall, at about 18% appreciation. Now, the number for 2021 is going to be slightly lower than that because we weren't at that appreciation rate the entire year. Probably about 15% appreciation in homes nationally last year. Now, I can tell you the consensus of forecasters right now is a little over 6% appreciation in 2020. But there are a couple of things about that I want to draw out. One is we're seeing forecasters start to have what they call a bias to the upside. All that means is they're raising their forecast. They're saying, we thought it was going to be this, and we think it's going to be a little bit more. Okay. And that's all about inventory in the market, supply and demand. People want to buy homes. There aren't enough of them. Price goes higher. It's simple economics. And so I think we're going to see a very busy real estate market this year. I think we're going to see more inventory come into the market. I think if you're thinking about selling a home right now, there's literally never been a better time to do that. But I think you'll see a very competitive market in 2022. Expect it, like I gave you the scenario on financing. it's going to cost more as we go down the road. And I can talk about that even beyond this year. There's some studies coming out to say what's happening in real estate. But overall, expect prices to continue to climb. Expect prices. I don't know that they are going to climb at the pace they did last year, but I don't think it's going to be 6% either. I think we're going to see somewhere in the neighborhood of 10%. Very, very good appreciation. And just to put that into perspective, historical appreciation in this country has been about 3.8%, going all the way back into the 80s and 90s. And so seeing very, very good appreciation in homes across the country.
You bring up some great points. First of all, last year in some of our markets, we were anywhere between 40 and 60% appreciation. Second home market, people want to be in the warm.
Sure.
What we're seeing right now are people that are scared, that are saying it's going to drop. I'm not going to buy this. It's not worth it.
Sure.
And if we look in the rearview mirror, every time we look in the rearview mirror, it seems like now is a better time. We woulda, coulda, shoulda then, and now we should have then, and we've missed it. I think you mentioned that about interest rates. Don't be worried about that, or cash. What about price? We're seeing, okay, maybe it's a modest 6% or biased improved, but as we go forward, do you see this like coming down in 23, 24, 25? What are the analysts saying?
Yeah, and I can send all this to you, Mary, so that folks, if they want to go deeper in this and look at some of this information that we publish as Keeping Current Matters, there's an organization that publishes a report called the Home Price Expectation Survey. It just came out, and they sort of look at cumulative appreciation in this most recent report between here and 2026. Okay, nice. So this year and beyond. And I'll give you kind of a range of what they're forecasting. The optimist in that report say cumulatively we'll see about 62% appreciation. Now these are national numbers, Mary, of what's going to happen in housing. So that's the optimistic side. The pessimistic side is about 24% appreciation. So pick a number in between there that you like, but a lot of appreciation in homes going forward. Now, the big point there is, why is that? We're in a market where there are more people that want to buy than there are available homes, and there are a lot of reasons for that. The predominant cause of the undersupply of homes in this country is really kind of this hangover effect of the housing crash back in 2008, when builders really went silent. If you were a builder back then, in the housing crisis, gosh, that was a rough time. You couldn't get financing. You had more homes built than you could sell. You had more lots than you could sell, and they kind of shut down. A lot of people got out of the business, and we just didn't build the number of homes over the last 10 years that we needed to meet the demand that's in the market right now. And so, I think even looking forward, we're poised for continued appreciation in the real estate market. But I will say, I want to acknowledge a very real and very serious question that people have, and it is all of this sustainable? Is this a market that we're going to see a crash in? And I think that looking at everything that's a real question that I want to put on the table. Now, I will tell you, Keeping Current Matters, and I don't have time to go in this today, but we could spend an hour unpacking it. When you look at prices, you look at inventory, you look at forecasted foreclosures, buyer demand, affordability, equity in homes across the country, we don't see that crash coming in the real estate business. When you look at the market, it's very, very sustainable in the sense of the fundamentals that are happening. So let me give you an example of that. I'm not suggesting that it's going to continue at this rapid, kind of torrid pace we've been at. But if you think back in the housing crisis for 07, 08, 09, 2010, there were almost 10 months of supply nationally of homes in this country. We just finished a month where there are 1.8 months of supply in this country. There's nowhere near the number of homes on the market that there
Right.
were back then. Again, the contributor to the housing crisis. The second thing that I know, we just talked about cash buyers. People that are buying homes today can afford them. And if you start to look at the financing requirements to get a mortgage, they are
Mhm.
so much more stringent than they were back then. So we know people can afford what they're buying. And oh, by
Mhm.
the way, equity in this country, meaning the amount of equity in homes across the country is skyrocketing, almost $10 trillion in equity in homes. And so, again, a very real question that people are asking, and I think it's a legitimate question. But really, when you look at the fundamentals, very, very different than what we saw in the housing crisis.
I love that. I know we've had some silent audience participation right now, but I know you're going to have questions later. Make sure that you ask your question whenever you watch this, because we will get those questions over to David.
Yeah,
He's kind enough to always come back and talk to us, but I think he offered two things that I'm going to offer as well. So if you're interested, in the notes below, make sure that you put them. The housing and inflationary times that you just
yeah.
did, that report, and then I think the home price expectations. Would love to have both of those. Let us know if you'd like to see them. If many of you watch, the materials that I do month in and month out on our market update. Those materials come from David Childers at Keeping Current Matters. We're thrilled and delighted that, looking at all the analysts and what everyone is saying in the market. He and the organization distills it. And David, I am forever grateful because my clients love it and what the value you have brought to them through, these trying times.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. We always love the time. We've gone, always long with your schedule. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. But until next time, I'm Mary Bartos with the Bartos Group of Premier Plus Realty, and my delight and pleasure, David Childers from Keeping Current Matters. And we'll see you next time here in Southwest Florida, buying
Thank
and
you,
selling.
Mary.
Ciao.